Welcome back, everyone. We are live. This is Growing with My Fellow Growers. I am Jack Greenstock. Sorry we are late. Had a little bit of technical difficulties there. That was my fault, not getting my Zoom set up with Shane on the back end, but hopefully from here forward, we won't have any of those issues. I've got my own account set up with Zoom to be able to go live with YouTube now. So we should be smooth sailing here forward. I do apologize for everybody who expressed us to start at 4 o'clock. It's 4:28, so we're about a half an hour behind. We did record some of the pre-show, but I don't think we're going to air it based on what we talked about. It wasn't really cannabis-related content, although it was a good conversation. I could send it to anybody on the panel who is interested because I was having fun listening in. Welcome, everybody. Sorry again about that. But yeah, joined as always by an amazing panel this evening. I want to first start off by welcoming in Brandon Rust. How's it going, Brandon?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome all the listeners who are here. It's always good to be here with the rest of the panel. If you guys aren't familiar with me, you can check me out on IG at Rust Brandon. You can find a link to my company, Bokashi Earthworks, and find out about some of the things that I am involved in out here in Oklahoma.
Thanks again for joining us, Brandon. We always appreciate your time. I know you're very busy and you're crushing it over there in Oklahoma. Next up, another guy who's got some projects in Oklahoma and California, Aaron the Grower. Welcome.
Oh, good. You gave me a little preface so I had time to unmute myself and it wasn't that awkward pause. Yes, I knew it was me. I am working on stuff in Oklahoma. Big things coming. Power got dropped last week. It's a pleasure to be on the panel. I look forward to chatting and learning with you guys tonight. And yeah, Happy New Year to everybody too, and the chat.
Happy New Year to you and everyone in the chat. Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you. I know we've only been doing this for over 90 episodes. I think I just put 97. Yeah, it's 97. I put better late than never. I just gave myself a thumbs up. Feels a little bit arrogant, but I love this show. I love all you guys. The panel, this is a great time every week, and I'm happy that everybody showed up on time, and we were able to get it live, even though we started a little late. Next up, good friend from Michigan, Spartan Grown.
What's up, everybody? I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram, Spartan Grown, all one word. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around and suffering through our technical difficulties. Appreciate it. Change your top chat to live chat so you can see everything. I don't know why it's even an option for top chat. And then everybody hit that thumbs up. I think I was the first one today, so I'm patting myself on the back for that. And that helps us out, so we'll get the word out.
Good stuff, Spartan. Appreciate that. And yeah, I think the top chat thing is when you get like thousands of people in your chat, you can't keep up with everything. So they filter out some of the trolls. And for people that are too big that they can barely even keep up with the chat, it gives them somewhat of an option. But most of those people don't even look at the chat at all. So shout out to the people on the panel who aren't talking usually, who keep up with the chat for us. And occasionally we answer their questions. So thank you to everyone for showing up and listening. And hopefully you get the level of engagement that you're hoping for. Next up, someone who's near to me here in San Diego, Matthew Gates.
Yeah, hey everyone, this is Matthew Gates, an integrated pest management specialist. You can find really cool information about various pests and viruses and pathogens and all those kinds of things on my YouTube channel, Zentanol, as well as on my Twitter channel at SyncAngel and on Instagram at SyncAngel. In fact, I just made a couple of really cool posts, one of which is the fact that there are some mycorrhizae out there that are documented that actually attract pests to their plant host. In this case, this was cabbage root fly and cabbage. And it, yeah, so we can talk about that later on. But yeah.
It's a bummer.
Always.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Just always be aware that things are not always as they seem or always as you presume.
Yeah, it's not always 100% beneficial, maybe in certain cases. So it's an interesting note to bring up there. Next up, we have someone who I'm not going to mention where they're from, but people might be able to guess. I don't know. The American one.
Hey, Jack, panel, everyone in chat. I'm the American one on YouTube and the American one _with_18s on the Instagram. And it's great. I'm glad to be here. And yeah. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And finally, not finally, we have two more. We have Kyle Breeder in the house with us tonight. How you doing, Kyle?
Good. Thanks, Jack. Hey, everybody. My name is Kyle Breeder. I specialize in feminized seeds. If anybody's looking for feminized seeds. I have a website. It's pbreeding.com. And if everybody's trying to look at anything that I'm working on, I'm on all social media platforms at Predicated Breeding, and I'm happy to be here, and hope everyone's doing all right.
As Tao says, still alive, so I think that's good. We're all here, seeming happy and healthy for the most part. So thank you all for joining us. Last but certainly not least, and Dr. MJ might be joining us a little bit later. He jumped out because he was doing some work, but Noah the Grower is here with us. Noah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Noah the Grower with two E's from Instagram, and I'm a medical grower from the Pacific Northwest up by Portland, Oregon. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. How's everybody doing? How's everybody in chat doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Noah. You look like you're crushing it over there in your garden. Everything's looking frosty. I'm happy to see that you're seeming to move around a little bit better and the recovery is going fairly smoothly. And I'm sure that you're happy to be able to do a little bit more than you were a few weeks and months ago. So just good things, moving in the right direction. Hopefully that's the vibe for all of us moving forward into this new year. Wanted to kick it back to Matthew. He had some interesting information about mycorrhizal fungi potentially having drawbacks, because I know for myself, I've only seen positive benefits, but there could be some interesting IPM interaction. So Matthew, I was curious if you had more about that. And I also wanted to say congratulations. I think it was Skunk Magazine just recently posted an article that you did, which was pretty awesome to see us branching out and you personally getting the recognition in that magazine. So cheers to you, man.
I appreciate that. That's right. You can check out that article. It's about the cannabis microbiome. And in it, I talk a little bit about the sort of what I like to talk about here. A lot of people already know the hologenome theory and the idea that, like, meta communities of microbes and insects and things that you're associated with, and living things, I should say. But if you want to check out that perspective about how you can look at IPM, you can find it on that Skunk Magazine article online. The article that I was referring to earlier, so basically there is this cabbage root fly, and what they did was they inoculated cabbage with entomopathogenic fungus that also is associated with the roots, and that fungus is Metarhizium bruneum. And what they found was that those plants that were colonized by this fungus were a little bit less reflective on the IR spectrum, but it also upped the production of jasmonic related compounds. There's a nice long compound in my Instagram post about it that I could, the jasmonic 7-iso jasmonal I, isoleucine, and salicylic acid. And
that much better than I would have.
So,
Yeah,
but
I
also,
don't think I would have been able to do that.
Also, mycosis increased too, and that means that the flies that actually so more flies went onto the plants that had the fungus than didn't. More oviposition happened by female flies, and more flies got colonized by the fungus, or I think the larvae did. And the reason why that's important is because this fungus has a dual lifestyle. So it has two really big important ways that it gets its resources and how it inhabits the ecology around it. One is by being in the soil, or rather, I should say, being associated with a plant endophytically inside of it. And then the other is with its host, this other host, the one that parasitizes. Well, maybe both cases they're parasitisms here, because what they're doing is they are increasing certain phytohormones and compounds being produced in the cabbage, but at the same time, they're doing it in a way that would attract certain pests. Now, this is a selected example. This just means that there are some examples that this can occur, and I've said very, very often on this show and other places that it's all symbiosis: parasitism, mutualism, commensalism, parabiosis. All of these are phrases, all of these are terms that mean something very specific. And over time, symbioses can shift over this spectrum from parasitism to mutualism, and perhaps it's even better to consider not on a line that's bidirectional, but more like a spectrum that's multi-directional because certain contexts matter a lot too.
So
So
what
it's
would this
just-
be classified as, because you have something where in one aspect it's in, assisting the plant in nutrient uptake, let's say, but at the same time, it's also attracting a pest. So it's more of, I guess, mutualistic, and it's not really symbiotic, would you say?
Symbiotic, they're both symbiotic. Mutualism and parasitism is, you mean synergistic?
Synergistic is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's kind of sort of like other sort of trophic descriptions like carnivore. Some people might be familiar that there's like hypercarnivory, which is when like more than 70% of the food, I think, is like carnivorous. And then there's like carnivory when it's like it can eat meat, right? So these descriptions don't necessarily, they're not perfect. And because life is so complex, it's kind of hard to base things around those interactions completely. But as for a designation, I think this speaks to the fact that that's not always possible to give. Here, I would say that depends on your perspective. From a cultivator's perspective, that's very sort of localized to a kind of a small population of plants. Yeah, you probably don't want that, right? It's probably not considered beneficial in that particular case. However, from a strategic perspective, from multiple multiple plant populations, whatever, if this was another situation, another plant or another fungus, then you might say that over a long period of time, it might generally be mutualistic because maybe that it would have a selection pressure on the root flies, maybe to like not associate with the cabbage potentially. Or rather, or because over time they might attract more flies to the plant, which is bad for the plant populations. But if it ends up interacting with the fly through the mycosis a lot and kills a bunch of flies, there might be another selection pressure for them to maybe not go after the cabbage potentially. But there's no rule that says it has to go that way.
Did they see this in any other plant species? And why does the fungus want the bugs to land on the plant, or is that just happen chance?
So
or
it
is
can
there
colonize
a reason?
Because a lot of
entomopathogenic,
a lot of entomopathogenic fungi like Beauveria bassiana, which we talked about, other Metarhizium species, the first lifestyle they had ancestrally in that lineage was that they could colonize arthropods and possibly even other animals. And then what happened is they developed the ability to colonize plants. Well, guess what? Lots of insects eat plants, right? So they were able to take advantage of that, and that caused a much more complex symbiosis, right? Because now they have a symbiotic relationship, not just with the arthropod that they colonize, but they now have a interaction with the plants, which is a vehicle for them to get into the insect to kill it.
So how quickly would the pest, so whatever it is, an aphid, we'll pretend, whatever, a fly comes in, how quickly will that pest, if it gets infected by this fungus, will it still be a danger to the plant?
Yeah, good question. So I think that the flies don't actually cause any problem. It's the larvae. So if I'm understanding where you're maybe heading with this question, is there some way to like make use of the fact that it mycosizes the flies?
Well, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at it from the plant perspective, and is there any detriment to the plant in any way? And I'm not really seeing one.
Well, so that's a good question. If you're a cultivator, you wouldn't like this because it would hurt the plant, possibly kill the whole plant. So in that way, it's bad for the plant. But if the plant is able to like still reproduce, which I'm sure that there's cases, because this was in the greenhouse and in the field, where they tested this interaction, not just the laboratory. So I feel like I don't know the exact answer to that specific detail, but I think that it's probably not the case that the flies cause probably they don't kill all the plants, and they might just cause a lot of problems for the plant. If the infestation was really heavy, though, and severe, then it might actually outright kill an individual or a population.
To me, this sort of speaks to the holistic ecology that we all kind of deal with. You know, you never really know. Even when you know everything that's going on, you still don't know everything. And I guarantee you, they're going to find more and more unclear symbiotic relationships. There, you know, it's where it's clear it's symbiotic. We just don't know if it's mutualistic or parasitic or, you know, synergistic or what kind of relationship it is. So that's what's so exciting about cannabis to me, is that the science is so not there yet, and it's like our job collectively to figure this stuff out. Thanks for sharing, Matt. That's
I got
awesome.
another
welcome.
question from Sour Diesel Tangi in the chat that I think we could probably all throw an answer at. They ask, what's the panel's thoughts on having a white floor in the grow? Is it worth the investment? I would ask how much larger the investment is than the alternative. Personally, I think reflective floors, white or otherwise, the bottom of your leaves don't really photosynthesize very much, if at all. So unless you're like bending over your plants extremely, like doing a lot of LST, then that bounce back up for as far as like getting more out of your electrical. I mean, in total, if you're doing like a larger room, I guess it's worth it. It's better than like black, which is going to get hot and absorb it. But it would
If
really
you're
come down to how much difference there was in the cost of that and the other options. Like, where else could you invest that money?
Well, unless you have a white roof as well, and then you're only, you know, it's not going to hurt you to reflect it back up to the plants, because you're only going to maybe eventually reflect it back down to the plants.
I think if
That's-
your light is reaching the floor, you don't have enough plants in your room.
Amen.
I mean, for real, because that was part of my whole. I realized that at one point. If there's light reaching the floor, there's a space that ain't getting filled.
That's how you know you defoliated too much, in my opinion. Like, I like to pluck enough to the point where, like, if I start seeing light coming through into like the soil or down into the floor, like, I'm not trying to grow the floor. That's what somebody once told me. I'm like, I'm not trying to grow floor. Like, I'm trying to grow plants. So I might as well, if I have enough plants to take up the space, then like only start, you know, removing leaves once I have too many plants for that space. Like, that's when it becomes necessary. But I'm curious, Spartan, what do you think about that?
Okay, so it's going to be situational. So generally speaking, I don't want the white floor. The reason for me not having a white floor in a home situation is in a home situation, I'm in a basement cement floor. If I paint that, I'm sealing the floor. I don't have a floor drain. If I had a floor drain, it'd be different. But so I don't want the floor to be sealed because I want water to drain through it if I did have a spill. Sorry. But if I were in, for example, at work, we have floor drains in all of our flower rooms. So then we do have painted floors. We didn't go with white. We went with gray because it was cheaper. But white, I do like for showing dirt more than showing, you know, bouncing light or any of that reason. For the same reasons you guys said, if the light's past your, we're going canopy. You know, it's nice to have a floor that's white so that you can see dirt, though. I mean, it stands out really, really easily.
Much easier. And even bugs. I was
Mold, bugs, yeah.
I just set up
all
an
that
earth
stuff.
box, and there's a white and a black side. And somebody was like, well, if your room's cold, you should do the black side to keep the soil warmer, which I was like, that's actually kind of a good idea. But I'm like, too late now. Like, the white, I think, looks really nice and clean. But on top of that, there was like a few ants, and ants happen to be black. But so I saw them walking across the top of that mulch layer, which is like a stretchy plastic. And I just manually crushed them with my finger. And there goes that problem. So it made it easier. And like whenever a leaf falls or there's debris, it's really easy to see. Whereas like if there's soil or something else that poked out, I wouldn't see it as quickly if it wasn't a white cover. So that is a benefit that I hadn't even really thought about, but I'm experiencing, not with a white floor, but a white mulch layer over the top of an earth box, which basically is like my floor because my earth box takes up the whole tent pretty much. So there's a mylar floor, which I've always had reflective floors, but I'm not like boasting like, oh, I've got reflective floors, so I'm gonna fucking, you know, count on that to grow my plants bigger. Like grow tents do a great job. Personally, I think they work really well for the home grower. But if you're in a grow setup like Spartan just talked about, gray was cheaper, and they probably invested it in better dehumidifiers and lights and a whole bunch of other things that could probably benefit you a lot more than painting the floor white.
Yeah, having an easy to clean floor is good too.
Yeah, the
You know?
epoxy
Yeah,
ones I've seen,
that's
like
important.
Gromau did like his dream grow house or whatever, and then he just like disappeared. But he laid that beautiful floor for his grow room, and it was like so white, like everything in there was just like, I don't know, it looked like glossy, like it was a beautiful setup. But I don't think that everybody needs that, but it is very nice when you're able to set it up. Noah, what do you think about the whole grow room floor color? You're still muted, bud.
Yeah, just like you said it perfectly. I mean, I don't think it's a negative thing, but I definitely think there's a lot better ways you can invest into your room. I would definitely try and, have a great dehumidifier, great air circulating, get your lights right. Maybe even go like, strain wise, get yourself a good cloner. Like you could do a lot of different things. Get some organic, super soil system going. There's just a lot of different ways you could go. Learn more about maybe like cocoa, different types of growing. I think that would probably be a better way to spend your time, myself personally. But I mean, I've never done it, so I can't really speak to it. But I like you said, the bottom of the leaves aren't going to really do anything. I think even I do a lot of LST, a lot of low stress training. I don't think that would really. You want your top canopy to be even so that your light can spread across the top, and penetrate down about 18 inches, for optimal. Obviously, it goes all the way, but yeah, I think that by the time the light gets down to the bottom, it's not going to do much going back up.
Yeah, I definitely tend to agree with you there. And Kyle, you've been quiet over there. Do you have any thoughts on this subject or anything else that you've been thinking about that you'd like to kick around? And I also want to say, if you hear any like noises in the background, I mentioned this pre-show, but I'm making some, or my wife is actually making some cannabis oil in the background. So our extract craft is, when it goes to pump the vacuum, it makes kind of like a loud noise. So if you hear that in the background, I apologize ahead of time, but just giving the forewarning because I didn't earlier. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on this, or if you want to make a topic change, then you can go ahead, take it.
I mean, topic wise, I don't have anything off the top of my head at the moment. But I would definitely agree with what everyone said. I mean, everyone had kind of a pretty good point. The facility that I did work at had white floors, which was definitely helpful when it comes to, just cleanliness in general, and maybe some reflective, positivity notes in that area. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, I would think key factors are definitely to ensure your grow room is as far you can up to speed with efficiency and accuracy. And then, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to does it help, I would say so. But I would definitely make sure your grow room's all set first.
So I got another question from the chat. Somebody asked at Spartan, wet or dry trim. I believe it was from Ian in the chat.
Dry, period.
I like that. What about you, Brandon? Wet or dry?
Dry.
Aaron the grower.
Dry.
No other grower. No other grower.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Wet or dry trim?
I'm a big wet trim guy just because I have to do it like a little larger scale. And it just, once I dry it and put it away, it's just easier. But I know that actually a lot of guys that I know, they swear by dry trimming. I actually think dry trimming is a little bit more difficult too, but I've done both, and it's always a great debate. We've had some great debates here, but I'm a wet trim guy. Just I have a big rack. I wet trim it, throw it in the rack, and then let it sit at like, I like 65, 63, like 65 temperature, like 63 humidity with just air like non-directly blowing on it, just kind of circulating the air, and just do it like that for like 6-7 days. But and then burping it, that's just kind of the route that I've gone. There's different ways. I've done different things, but you could do 60% humidity, but I think it might dry it out a little faster. A trick that I like to actually do is just leave like a lot of the buds on the stem, so then the stem kind of like helps it dry just a little bit slower. I don't like having that any water leaf that can kind of like pull from. That's just my personal way I look at it. But
I respect that. I know Eagle Gardens is a wet trimmer. I'm going to throw it over to the American one, wet or dry trim.
Well, when I take them down, I take all the fan leaves off and hang them, and then I start wet trim. But by the time I'm done, it's basically dry trim by the time I get finished with everything. So I don't care either way. I think, like, because I think it's a lot easier to get a tight trim when the thing is wet, because the leaves are all turgid, they're sticking out, and
I want
like
to jump in. I want to cut you off for a second, Tal, because I have to agree with that. There was a picture, and it had like wet versus dry trim, and they wouldn't tell you which one it was, and they said guess. And most people actually guessed incorrectly. But the one that looked like better trimmed, in my opinion, that was a tighter trim, was the wet trim. So I picked that one as the wet trim because when it's wet, you can snip it basically like even with the bud, and then when it
the
dries, it
stem.
shrinks back in. And
well, I take the stem, and because
and
I
you
love
can,
my
but there's
edibles, I get every little sugar leaf off. I'm like ridiculous, kind of too much. So and it all depends
it
on
all
the
goes to good use.
situation. If you have a stupid ass dry house or a stupid humid place, it's just situational, like everything is, and your preference too. Like some people swear by doing crazy things with it, and they like the way it comes out. Like they put it wet into a plastic bag and like wait till it discolors and then take it out. Stuff like there's all sorts of stuff you can try and do, and
like Malawi cobs.
I wouldn't
craziness.
I wouldn't
I
recommend
wouldn't
anybody
either.
put wet.
No, don't do
White
that.
Powder everywhere, so that's my first time doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely some risky business, bagging up anything wet. But there's definitely a lot of different ways to cure it. I can't believe it, but my preferred method for drying is actually the My Herbs Now, even comparing it to my Curador, which keeps a constant 60 degrees, 60% humidity. I like the way the bud smells and tastes better when it's dried 4 to 5 days in a My Herbs Now machine at like 75 degrees, which I never would have thought because it's warmer than some terpenes volatilize at. But with that said, side by side for the last 2 harvests in a row, it's consistently had the best bud, and it's also got the bud accessible sooner than my old method where I'd hang for about 2 weeks and then I'd jar cure it for anywhere from like 1 to 2 months. I'd find it was best around like 2 weeks to a month if you like it fresher, up to 2 months depending on certain strains. But out of the herbs now, it's like 4 to 5 days in the machine, and then I jar it for a week at 60 and put it in the Curador, and it just comes out really well cured. So I don't know, 11 days. It seems kind of crazy, but some like the most flavorful, tasty smoke I've had in a long time, and really happy with that. Not to like plug it too much. You can't even buy them. The guy's totally out of business, so it's like not so shameless plug, I guess, because I don't know. I can't even explain what happened to the business, but Kyle Breeder, I never got your input on the wet versus dry trim thing either.
Yeah, I personally despise dry trimming. I tried to do it because everyone is just, I've heard people say, I mean, everyone has their own opinion, so I'm not shitting on anybody, but I'm not a fan of it at all. So what I do, I basically pull the plant out and I don't even cut all the branches off and then trim them. I actually leave basically what's living, because even if you cut them all down, the leaves start drooping the longer it's been cut down. So I always should leave everything live and I just cut per trim. So that way everything's real perky so I can get those tight spots. And to me, again, at the end of the day, I think it looks a lot better. That's just my opinion though.
I've done both. The first time we harvest in my current setup, we wet trim some and dry trim some to see side by side, and both ended up great after a cure and smoked awesome and tasted awesome. So I think that you can get awesome bud either way. So I think it's cool just to know going around the panel who does what, and not even necessarily why. It's just like you heard how quick Spartan said it. He's like dry, period, and then like went, Brandon dry, Aaron dry.
I've just had that conversation a million times.
Me too,
Yeah, no,
man.
I know.
And
And
there's so much. Have you guys heard the science behind the ethylene gases retreating into the buds when you do wet trimming? Have you heard that? Basically,
Not totally.
Okay, so I haven't seen any research that supports this, but I think it was Coma the grower was saying this a few years back, saying that when you wet trim, the same gases that are released when a fruit is ripening in your kitchen are actually maybe not as a gas form, but as like a molecular form, retreat into
Usually
the
it's like a volatile, I think, ethylene.
Okay, well, it must have some sort of like physical compound within the plant. And I think in that regard, it is what Coma was saying, was that it retreats, I think was his word, into the plant. When you snip that, when you make that cut, when the plant is still live, it has the ability to transport that compound, be it ethylene, whatever, back into the bud and maybe give it this overripe flavor. What do you guys think about that? You heard that?
Interesting. Not really.
Makes.
But I'm curious about what that might be interpreted as. I wonder what
I've
he
been
said
following-
exactly.
I've been following Coma the grower since he was Coma Trichome, and I know for a fact, I know all the stuff you're talking about, and I get it. I don't really know if I think that that's the case, but for me personally, it's very hard to. I'm actually on Kyle's side. I think it's much harder. I even mentioned that to do, and I'm willing to bet that Coma's not doing a lot of trimming right now, so he just wants his pot the way he wants it. But no. Man, I don't know. I think it's fine either way. It just I think it to me personally, it's easier for me to do that way, to do it wet trimming, and then once I wet trim it, like, you know what I mean? Like, I know that in like 5 days, 6 days, it'll be ready. Like, to do it the other way, just for me, it's a longer process. I have to dry it, then do it. It's just I dry it, I'm done, and then I can literally just jar it up and be done with it after a week. So that's just the way I do it to get it faster myself personally.
So
And
that's interesting you say that, because me and you, we have opposite goals. So it makes sense that we're doing opposite trims. See, I'm trying to slow it down. I'm trying to take as long as possible to dry it. So I can understand now why you would want to watch them.
But if it's too dry, because I remember chipping leaves off something that got too dry. In the sunlight, you could see the resin glands just flying off of it. That's why I was like, yo, I don't want to lose that.
Get a trim bin. It's worth the $52 fucking or whatever. They catch all that trach. I was blown the fuck away. You get more keef than you'll ever get on anything.
Yeah, well, if you wet trim it, you ain't losing nothing, boss.
Bingo.
It's on you get scissor hash. You get scissor hash.
Trust
if you guys
me,
want
if you work the scissors like I work my scissors, there's not a lot of hash anyway.
So, like my girlfriend runs all the trim crew for the facility that I run, and she'll be doing the same. I think having all her people do it at the farm. And before we were having the previous people, they were bringing in their own trays, and we noticed that what they would end up doing is, and I wasn't aware because I'm not overseeing like trimming, I'm back there working, and she actually brought it to my attention. They were taking like smalls and stuff that they didn't want to trim, and they were just grinding them up and then like pushing them through their trays. And I didn't realize how much material was actually leaving because they had their own trays until I went and bought like 10 trim bins, and we brought them in. And those people don't work for us anymore, but we collect the material from those bins and we get jars full. I mean, I'm talking about,
I love it.
We have probably, a good pound of keef at the end of a good run. I mean, some varieties will produce more than others, and the same with the, scissor hash.
It presses amazingly, and it makes great rosin, or even RSO. Like, if you want to turn it into oil, it's really potent oil. So
we had so much at work that it breaks my heart to say it and to do it, but we get so much that we just take it and just dump it straight into we call it charging the trim. We just dump it straight in the trim, and then the trim goes to concentrate, and they just get fucking stellar returns.
So one of the things that can be done if you're a home grower and you have your trim bin material and you want to make rosin, because it's been my experience that it doesn't make the best rosin. It does make really good quality, but not like the top tier stuff where they're using fresh frozen material, where usually the cured material will leave a little more residue in your like banger. Often
even if you clean it up, a lot of that stuff gets oxygenated. The reason that the keef in the trim, and just quick sidebar, gets bad in my experience, is because it sits there for multiple days open to oxygen. If you can extract your keef right after it's dry, like you run it through a tumbler, get your keef, put it in the fridge until it's ready for processing, that's the best way to handle your keef into rosin.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a note on the trim bins, if you do use them, or the trim tray, whatever. I'm not sponsored by either of them. If you put down a piece of like parchment paper between, like if you're trimming, like at Brandon's facility, if they're doing like a whole thing of limarilla, on that. Then you get just one thing of, so instead of getting your tray all dirty, you can pull it up and just basically fold it into a single pack and then write Limarilla number 37 or whatever. And
on the fridge, the freezer.
Put it in a jar first. Make sure it's not exposed to air.
And
the other thing I wanted to say,
we put everything in jars and then freeze it, and we collect everything the day of the trim. One of the things that a home grower can do though is they can press that rosin, and then they can turn that into solventless, like full spectrum oil really easily, just by like kind of decarboxylating it, low heat for a long time. You got to cap it. And it'll slowly change the consistency, and it'll turn it into kind of a more oil that you can put in a syringe. You can take it orally, and it's activated.
Are you talking about decarboxylating keef and
no? If you press, you can do it with like the rosin.
Like the rosin. Oh,
like
okay.
if you go and press some like material that's maybe not that great, that's not top tier, you can do other stuff with it. Like for instance, if you want to, you could make a full spectrum oil out of that. That's really, really potent, high terpenes, and it works.
And it's just about the carboxyl molecules being removed. And so my understanding is that your body can't absorb THCA. It's too large for your receptors, and that you actually have to remove that carboxyl compound so that I can fit and get you stoned.
I'm like an old school.
It oxidizes a molecule, and then it makes it psychoactive.
I'm kind of an old school like bro science guy. And Spartan, like you were talking earlier, I've done literally, 20 times side by side. And to me, the difference is so. I actually prefer it myself, to be is 6-7 days. Like I said, in the rack is 65%, and then. Sometimes maybe 64% humidity, like it's hard, tough to tune it in really, and then to have it wet trimmed, I actually prefer it that way on multiple levels, but I know a lot of guys, so I don't, it's like telling someone how to raise their kids. A grower's going to do it the way they want to do it. That's about how to.
Yeah. I just encourage people to try every way possible.
Absolutely.
And,
do whatever you want to do. Yeah, for sure.
I want to give Kyle Breeder a chance to jump out. He said he's got to get going here soon. So Kyle, go ahead and give your final thoughts and shout outs.
Hey, sorry to interrupt everybody. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I'm sorry I have some things going on, so I do have to jet. But again, I'm glad that we're all here doing this still. I think you said episode 97 or 93, Jack. I forget. But,
97.
97, yeah. So we should have a 100th party of some sort. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here still. And I try and I know I'm not the most contributing, but I do really enjoy being here, and I'm still a part of this. But yeah, if anybody is looking for feminized seeds, please feel free to check out my website at pbreeding.com. My social media platforms are at Predicated Breeding, and I hope to see you guys next week, and be well, everybody.
Thank you very much for joining us, Kyle. Stay safe out there. Have a great one. Look forward to seeing you next week. And whether you're talking a lot or not, I always appreciate everyone on the panel, because you have the opportunity to jump in when the time's right and when you're feeling it. So again, thank you very much for joining us. I wanted to say, often I plug products that I like, and I'm not trying to like put them down, because I've seen, I think Brandon even liked it, and a few other people have liked it, and even like Eric Nugshots, who's a pretty prolific photographer, has praised the product, the Cannabis. But I'll say, I don't trim, but Lady Greenstock doesn't like it. She's old school scissors, man. She uses like the Chickamauga, but I'm not a fan of the Cannabis myself either. So
there's a trick to this, right? If you get your cure perfect, right? So typically we'll have everything hanging, and there's almost a perfect ripeness where that outer kind of thing is crispy and the leaves just like kind of almost flake off, right? And when that's like that, it's like the perfect time, because after it's all brushed and backed up, dude, it's like perfect, ready to go. And that's almost one of the ways that you can tell if things are done. Every single person that does this at our facility uses those brushes, and they literally pump out like, I've seen them pump out 1,200 grams a day.
Jack, what's your problem? You're not growing perfect weed or what?
No, see, it worked, but like for us, it's not a time saving thing. She just preferred the scissors, like to the actual like brushing motion and the feel of it. I guess she's just used to it, and like it is effective. We use it in herbs now, like I mentioned earlier, so it gets pretty dry, and so it flakes off. You can even do like I've seen people use gloves and like kind of like hand trim it. You can almost like pluck it, and they just or almost like
Okay. It was
brush
a
your
weird
finger past it.
transition. It was a weird transition after, pruning plants and, trimming with the end tips of your scissors and like, because I always, was told, you don't use the sides of your scissors to trim weed. You use the tips of your scissors because there's a point where you can clip
Yes.
and the whole leaflet will come off, right? And if you want really nice, pretty weed, you're not going to be
Yes.
sitting in there chopping up your weed. So that's how I was always taught, and that's how I've always done it. And
No cross feet,
it was a
no
weird,
haircuts.
yeah, it
That
was just
also
Unless it's a
improves. That's
crazy,
also
crazy sativa. Like
no.
there's some you
That
just can't do it to, Rust, because like
no, there is like
yeah.
again.
But
So
in
if you
general,
have
dude, I'm
varieties
with you
that are very, very
100%. Cut the leaf at the stem. Cut the leaf at the stem. Take the whole leaf out. Yeah, that's
Some
beautiful.
foxtail ones, somebody
Nugs.
described it beautifully. They said like if you leave a little bit of that sugar leaf on there, it's like you're unwrapping a Christmas present. Like when you go to break down that bud, you can almost like break off that sugar leaf. I know some people eat it. My wife does that. One of my buddies used to live here in San Diego. He lives in Chicago now. But yeah, I don't know. I think it
That's what
helps
makes my
preserve
cookies good.
the terpenes
It's
a
just
little
like
bit
Noah
prefer
in
that.
the jar.
I prefer that for my personal and my home grow, but I can't have that type of
I totally agree.
material on a commercial level because what ends up happening is when you have consolidated a ton of pounds of a variety, eventually all that
It's shake.
material ends up at the bottom,
Yep.
and so
Yeah.
you want to have those nice everything cleaned up real well.
No, I totally get it. It's a different game, really, at that point. Like when you're doing it for yourself and you're doing it for just, it doesn't store in the bag, it doesn't travel well. And your position is going to go to a few different dispensaries and it'll sell probably quickly. But when it gets put into pounds, it's just like a different thing than ounce jars, It's, they're both great, and that at the end of the day, people are going to enjoy the end product.
I guess they we came across a new like company, and they're like a bag company, and it's like antioxidant. It's it's supposed to be able to preserve terpenes, and they make them like huge, they make them small. I wish I could
Matthew,
remember
didn't you mention this knowing about some sort of brand? Is it the one that controls your RH too?
Yeah, they're it's a special type of bag that's
Groove or
specifically
Grove?
for
Groove?
cannabis.
I think it's Grove bags. Is that correct, Matthew?
No, I don't remember.
I know, but listen, on the side, someone in California was selling actual branches with like a lot of the leaf left on them. And I don't know exactly how they packaged it, but they were like killing it. People were loving on it. They were buying the sticks, right? Am I right?
Yeah,
so think about that.
I'll tell you, not to interrupt, but since you mentioned that, actually, I knew some cut flowers growers who were trying to work with hemp flowers, as like, flowering hemp. So obviously, cannabis, right?
Yeah.
And because they wanted to use it in an ornamental capacity. And I thought that was a clever move, especially since even if you get away from the maybe signaling of the appreciation for the cannabis plant, but also cannabis leaves do look pretty attractive. Like they have a very, very basic, simple look to them, but they can look really cool, I think, with their
Wedding bouquets.
denticulations.
Satisfy our basic need for symmetry.
Wedding
some of
bouquets
those
do
colors,
big money.
Some
for
of
like
the colors are just incredible too.
They sell it on the side of the road here. I literally, when on my way to work or whatever, like driving down the road here in San Diego, you can see a greenhouse that sells microgreens and a whole bunch of other stuff. But they also sell jars of hemp. And I'm sure if you wanted to go in and get a bouquet of flowers and set that up for a wedding or some sort of event, they would probably cater to your. It's totally legal, and it's interesting to see. Like they also have legal grows, but it's not as plugged into like a neighborhood as this place is. It's like like selling a tomato on the side of the road almost. It's really interesting.
Stem ripened flowers. Is that is that what they wear, Tao?
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
think
don't know how they marketed it
they-
even, but I remember the story, and like they were like they couldn't keep them on the shelf. So
Cannabis
saw
or
some
whatever
at
would
the,
sell like quarters like that, like a big giant ass nug that was basically like a huge stem with like a few chunk nugs on there, but it was all in just like a mason jar. That was her jar, was like a pure mason jar. And
There was a farmer's market in my area that had like a plastics, you buy like baby spinach at the grocery store, that box plastic. It was like that, but it was hemp, and they're just like had a sticker, and I don't know, I guess it's legal. I don't know.
Yeah, hemp is interesting. I guess like there's a few breeders who've talked about like how working with the BCC, the Bureau of Cannabis Control in California, is so much more difficult than working with like the Department of Ag, who you go through with, or not department. I don't know who it's technically manages the hemp, but I guess the hemp people are like a lot more willing to work with you and like friendly, and it's interesting.
Dude,
Because
Jack, I have a question for you that I think you'll know the answer to. Did you see that Neptune started shipping clones?
Neptune Seed Bank.
Yes, they created a clone shipping program anywhere in the at least country, maybe world. And
Clonify and Shop. There's a few other places.
Okay.
Streamly have been doing it.
Is
I
it
saw one was doing a tissue culture clones for a little bit with the Mass Medical's like Star Pupil, or one of those was it was I can't. It was the one that was crossed with Tangy. I can't remember what
so?
the name of
Are
it
they
was.
able to do that because that actual plant tissue is less than 0.3 THC,
That's their claim. That's their
Yes.
legal defense. And
even though it flowers out to like a way
some
over
people are
that?
saying
It's
no
hemp until
because
it's
they could.
not.
They're saying that they could seize it and grow it out and charge you depending on where they're at. But
Ah.
there's like 40 plus legal states now. It's like there's like less than 10 that are cannabis is illegal in the United States, and
Wait,
we do have
so
the hemp farm bill.
the DEA is gonna confiscate your hemp clone. They're gonna grow
And
it
grow your
out.
weed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and
I
then
don't think
try to
so,
pull.
but
Hey, I bet you they wouldn't even be able to pull a fucking 0.3% anyway.
Yeah,
So it's like
the russet mites would destroy their
if
plants
it's anything
before
like what
they
they're
got to
doing
them.
over at the University of whatever Mississippi or whatever down there, where they couldn't get over 15% for years and years and years,
Trash.
and then they like would ready to grow and be like, how the hell do they have 20-25%? Like what the fuck? Like they'd test this stuff on their devices, and they actually kept some of the clones from some of these plants because they're like, this is a special plant. Like it tests way higher than anything that we've grown in our facilities. So there's if you look into Frank Gigax, his bunker grows in California and Arizona. Some of this stuff is public knowledge because he got caught, and it's all documented through his arrest. So anybody who wants to go down a rabbit hole someday, he's
yeah, you have
alive
to
and
send that
out.
link on the IG.
It's fascinating, man.
Yeah.
He's got a great story. He's gone on like the Adam Dunn show, I believe, and sort of done like a little bit of a tell-all because he got charged for it, and he's out now. And he kind of talked about how he got started and just starting an underground bunker with a bunch of lights, and they had a farm and basically like had the exhaust going through like hay bale, and it was in the middle of fucking nowhere. So nobody was really the wiser, and they had a bunch of contractors that were able to set it all up. But yeah, definitely look into Frank Gigax. It's Gegax, and he's done Adam Dunn show. But if you look it up like Grow California, Frank G, I'm sure you'll find some cool information because that was a real life thing that happened. California's got kind of Wild West history, especially with cannabis. So there's a lot of fun little things like that out here. Shit, Brandon's story was great on Future Cannabis Project the other day that you kind of told. I can't remember what they labeled it. I think it was like an outlaw love story or something like that. But yeah, it was a really good one. If anybody didn't catch that, you should make sure to check that out. That was really cool to hear some of Brandon's backstory told in that in public for the first time, I think, as far as a lot of those things that I had heard you talk about. So I think Peter does a good job getting people on there and getting them to tell their story. And cheers to you, Brandon, for going on there. I want to pass it over to you and ask how the greenhouse is going. The first greenhouse I saw was like pretty good along in flower, and the second one got everything planted up. How are things going at Black Label Organics?
Oh man, I'm so excited because like, okay, I've grown a lot of fucking weed, a lot of weed. And this is going to be probably some of the best weed that I've ever grown. And I am honestly kind of shocked that I'm saying that about something that I'm not growing indoor, right? And I guess I'm not really that shocked.
Attaboy.
Here's the thing, right? Our greenhouses stay within 2 degrees of what we set them. Because
is
of the
it cold?
manufacturing style, it's fucking freezing, dude. It snowed here. Had a snowstorm the other day.
So what kind of heat? You must be paying heat. All right, I'm sorry to
Yeah, we
interrupt.
have 2 big ass propane heaters that have fans that kick on and heat those greenhouses up if need be. But we also have 33 double-ended HPSs that run, you know, during the daytime as an assistance to the sun. You know, what's really interesting is because we're able to continue to control our environment just like we're in indoor because of the way that these greenhouses are manufactured, the way that we're able to move air through there if we need to evacuate air. It's just they're greenhouses. You know, they have they're insulated basically. They're the fabric that makes up.
Who put your greenhouses together? Is it Full Bloom or?
It's something farms out here in Oklahoma. I can't remember what they're called though. Focus Farms, maybe.
Did they tell you? Do you have an R value of your insulation? Do you know like how much it's insulated?
Oh yeah, down to as far as the wait, I'm not sure. See, here's the thing. I wasn't super like involved in like the construction aspect and like, you know what I mean? I was like, put up a greenhouse. This is what we need here. Yeah, we needed to have these, you know, like blah blah blah.
Is it hard
other than
plastic
that, I
walls
wasn't
or
too.
soft plastic walls?
So it's almost kind of like the things that cover up swimming pools where they have like these real big bubbles. So it's like a double air insulated
Yeah. Bubble wrap.
Oh, so is it an
type of
inflated? It's an
deal.
inflated wall.
Yeah, well, it has an air pocket, right? It's basically like honeycombed. It's a honeycomb wall that has.
I see.
Right, so it's kind of like an insulated with the heaters. If it gets too cold, we have 5 stages of cooling. So what happens is in the back is a wet wall, and behind that wet wall are louvers. And these louvers will open if it gets too warm. We have it set at 76 degrees, right? So what'll happen is stage 1 is those louvers will open and allow more air movement to come into the greenhouse. If that doesn't cool enough, we have a large fan at the top of the greenhouse on the other end, on the other side, that will pull air through those louvers more efficiently and get air moving. Stage 3 is the big 2 side fans, which are like 8-foot fans or something like that. They're huge. They'll both kick on, and that will cause even more movement. The 4th stage is the wet wall will turn on, and the wet wall is going to be chilled and cooled with a commercial grade water chilling machine. So that way, any air that moves through that wet wall is going to be bringing a nice cool air, similar to how an air, a souped up swamp cooler, I guess, would work. The 5th stage is there's a thing at the top, a ridge vent at the top of those houses that can open up. I doubt we'll ever need that ridge vent with the way that we have things set up. However, we've had 20-degree weather out here, and I walk into that greenhouse, take my coat off, and I'm like, you ready to rock and roll? It's 76 degrees in there. Not only that, but we have approximately 36 gallons of soil per plant in each of those beds. So They're getting more soil per volume. Also, the soil is healthier, balanced. It's low ones has very, very low sodium, very low chloride. The whole thing is just rocking, man. We're gonna crush it. We're gonna absolutely crush it. And our other one just got set up. We just transplanted the other day, and they're gonna veg for about 2 weeks, and then we'll flip them.
Congratulations, man. I'm
It's
proud
looking
of you.
great, man.
Been watching
I'm
that
really,
project.
really happy for you.
Thanks.
I'm always happy to see everyone on
I'm
this panel
excited.
have success.
Hey,
and-
Rust. I mean, Brandon, I bet as the day lengths get longer, it's going to even get better because it's like having the best of both worlds, and then more sunlight is even going to be more insane.
So here's the thing, right? When we get a day of like nice full, we're in winter right now, and so we have a lot of cloudy days. It's cold out. We don't have long days. So when we get a nice, good, clear day, full sun, dude, you can see the fucking difference. It's night and day. Like when you get consecutive days of just sun in that place, those things they're gonna chunk out so huge, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have seen some of the things that I do indoors with plants that are only, this fucking big. I mean, these things are fucking huge.
I was when you said third trellis, I was like looking at it, and I thought I saw the first one. I was like, "That's the second one," and I was like, "Those plants are giant, man." I was just looking at them shaking in the wind. You got that greenhouse set up very well, and I think the second one's gonna do just as well. And I'm excited to see how they finish up for sure, man. It's exciting to see. So I wanted to throw something out there. Somebody brought it up in the chat earlier, and I'm not trying to do just a shameless self-promotion. I figure I wanted to pay it forward to this awesome community of, there was 155 that were in here just a second ago. We're down to 148 right now. So sorry to those few who just left, but this is a worldwide giveaway. We're going to do 1 to 600 number, and I'm going to give away a copy of 50 Strains of Green, my new book, a paperback copy. So everybody in the chat's eligible. If you want one, even if you've already bought one, if you want to gift it to a friend or whatever, I can ship it international. It's all good. It's just a book. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start in the chat on the Cheap Home
That's
Grow.
awesome.
And 1 to 600.
That is awesome.
We're going to do
I can't wait till that comes
2
out.
minutes on the clock.
Every time I go to my mailbox, I'm like, damn it,
only
Jack,
one
it's not
guess.
here yet.
One guess only. One guess only for anybody. One guess, unless you see somebody else guess your number. I don't advise 420. Just saying.
Everybody
guesses
guessed
that.
420.
Oh, geez.
Everybody guessed it.
It's
always
like the
420.
first thing that,
Then
how many people's PIN codes are 1420?
Yeah, right.
69 is the one I usually see.
Please don't hack
all
my
the
account.
fucking time.
Yeah.
710,
So-
that's another one.
Did you pick a number, Jack? Or are you going to do a random pick after?
He's concentrating.
This is exciting.
All right, I've looked.
I did use a random number generator, and I just put it in right now. So we've got 10 seconds left. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. There's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to hit stop right now on the Cheap Home Grow. And we're going to go through and see if anybody hit it nail on the head. But yeah, thank you everybody for participating. Hopefully we can help each other find it. Now that the stop has been entered, the number was 342, 342. So
Looking like Shanani Gans
All right.
at 345.
So what are all you doing to
T1 mushrooms was 345 also. I need to go.
Nice.
Oh, who got it first?
So
So was
Dr.
Dr. DGC.
Jeff was before. Shanani was the first, 345. But there's a
Shanani, yeah.
339. 339 is closer than all of those. Mountain Sky S again with the
There he
win.
goes.
Mountain Sky, you are in my head or the RNG's head, a random number generator. You're a lucky guy, I believe. I'm going to scroll all the way up.
RN
to the
Jesus
start.
has blessed you.
Yes. Random number generator is on your side this evening. 365.
Connected
420,
karmatically.
237. 365. Mountain
So
Skies.
for the rest of us, how do we
DM
get a
me.
hold of that book, Jack? Can you tell us again? Because
Yeah,
I want to get
Jack.
myself a copy.
Yeah, Jack, I want one too. Direct message me
And
when you
tell
get a
us
chance the next
exactly
couple weeks.
what's in it too. Give us a little preview, boss.
You know what? Maybe I can do a little share screen, and we'll do a ebook style. It won't be as satisfying because when you have the printed copy, you're flipping through it and they line up. So the strain information will be on one side, and the photos will be on the other side. But right now we'll do a little scroll through to give you a tease of the last 10, because I showed a little tease to some people of some of the earlier ones. I'm gonna try and do a share screen, see how this works out. All right, y'all.
And if you buy the physical book, you can carry it around and shove it in people's faces and tell them to go buy it, which is what I would recommend.
It's stuff
I'm gonna be like, look, my weed's in a book.
You're extra special. I don't know how you don't have a copy already.
Brandon actually is going to have a copy because any of the breeders featured who sent me photos get a copy. So
there you go.
That's an
Like I
honor
said,
bestowed upon him and
Sweet.
only one other person that I can think of, because the other breeders that I reached out to, we'll call it, as Masonic Smoker says, a forced collab. They didn't respond, and I, hopefully they don't get too pissed off. I'm shouting out their strands in a positive light. So
hey, here's the whole thing, right? If you give somebody credit and then you use a good image, I don't see how they could really be upset.
So I actually have like a lot of legal grounds to stand on as far as fair use is concerned. There's like a legal precedence as far as using images. I'm not just using like one image. Like I've used it as part of a collage, and then I'm also critiquing the strain. And so there's a few different angles of the fair use that I'm covered by, and I actually print that in the book. And I also say if any of the breeders have an issue with me using their stuff and creating a public, publicizing them, reach out to me. I'd be happy to take you out of the second edition, the ebook, the audiobook, and any future editions of any books that were going to be written.
And you'll get
It's
a
kind of
follow-up
shot in your
email
own
that
foot.
says, go fuck yourself. Yeah, exactly.
No one wins except for the lawyers with copyright law. I hate to say that. So we could fight it out, but I think you could settle out of court if you're really interested in that kind of thing. But none of the people had a publicly listed copyright or trademark on any of the images that I use. Some of the photography, including the front cover photo, is original photography. Lady Greenstock shot that, and she gave me permission to use it. So, and shout out to sequence_mi. I actually can't show it. My fucking Zoom, after I upgrade, it's not letting me share screen for some reason. One participant at a time. Advanced sharing options. It's not letting me share screen.
Good on you for getting this shit together, even though, I mean, just so everybody knows this, but while we were late, Jack was like scrambling, not only having a conversation with us, but scrambling to get this together. I think he had to pay for a subscription. He had to like switch his profile, restart his computer. He had to do like 1,000 things. So shout out Jack for getting that together today.
Yeah, you're a great host, Jack.
Thank you all for being patient with me, and I'm just glad that in the future it won't have to be rough, and maybe that's part of the reason that I felt compelled to do a giveaway, but not necessarily. I talked about it last week that I wanted to do a giveaway, and it sort of is a free promotion. I do love this community. You all have supported me very much. Whatever the Zoom cost has been more than covered by everybody's pre-ordering of the books. I'm waiting really on the printer. I'm going to pick it up. It's about an hour drive from me. I have a local person. They're in Irvine. So I hopefully sometime next week we'll be able to pick it up. And then I got green Sharpies.
Were you able to see
You cut in and out. I don't know if it was my connection or yours. I couldn't hear you there, Brandon.
Did you get a sample copy for yourself?
So I actually didn't, because I just wanted to expedite the process. The sample copy is going to go to Ali Noble, Noble Wellness. He lives in Irvine. So I'm going to reach out to him and hopefully have him pick it up. And there's I have two potential options, because based on how the formatting is, I'm not 100% sure. I need it to line up so that all the copies that I'm printing are proper, like I said earlier, strain information on the left, photos on the right, and you can't have it. So it has to line up a certain way. So I have two PDF, basically images or files that I send over to the printer, as well as the cover, which is the front and back cover in like one file because it's called a perfect bound. It like wraps all the way around. Shout out to Sequence again because he used to work in like printing and he knows all the professional ins and outs of it. And he made what I consider, he thought it was like a little simple, but I'm like, it's humble, it's simple, it's my first book. I love it. So I'm excited for everybody to actually get their copy because
not to take the floor, but shout out Sequence on my account. He actually like volunteered to throw that New Year's Eve bash and we had a lot of fun. Spartan, thanks for showing up, dude. Noah, I think he showed up too for a little while and it was a lot of fun. We had to chat with Coot and stuff. So
yeah, he also
Yeah, it was
redid
a
my
good time. I
Bokashi
listened to
labels
it.
for me. He redid the labels
What
for
a
me
guy.
for Bokashi too.
He's very good at that type of work, and I know that he's moving into more of an independent work, so cheers to him. Cheers to the Michigan Bros Grow Show, where I know Spartan's going to be going in the next half an hour. We got Spartan for another 10, maybe 15 minutes. Spartan, what you toking on over there? After you take that rip, you can let me know. I love that pipe. It looks like a octopus, and it's badass. I love that you always use so many different devices and methods to ingest the beautiful cannabis plant that we all know and love. So what was that one right there?
Sorry, I'm recovering. That was there's no name for the strain. It was the pineapple Thai crossed with the sour strawberry by 2020 Mendocino, and it was my pineapple Thai leaner. I don't have that plant anymore, but this is the last of it. And what I liked about this pineapple Thai was the high that came with it. It's one of those ones that's slow to ramp up, but then it sticks around for a while. So I'm excited about that. And so when I saw that jar down there with a few nugs left, I decided to grind that one up today.
When you say that,
Good stuff, man.
do you mean it's creeper weed?
Yeah, definitely it's creeper weed.
I got to give a second to introduce Dr. MJ. He was with us at the beginning when this whole mess up on my end was happening, and he jumped out to take care of a little bit of work, but he's back with us now. Dr. MJ, welcome.
Hey guys, yeah, sorry I'm late. I jumped out and I totally lost track of time. That's what happens when you do video editing. But hey, grower love to everybody. I am happy to join you if a little bit late.
We were just talking a little bit about what we were smoking on. Spartan was telling us what he smoked on. I got to say, hypothetically, allegedly, a little messenger pigeon came from the Michigan area. It flapped its little birdie wings real hard, and it delivered a little package at the Greenstock household. And I'm smoking on some rascal berries that I got to say, cheers, Smiley's Garden in the chat. Good dude out there, and good cannabis coming from the Mitten. Cannabis in Michigan has been long history over there, and I'm happy to finally get to sample some of the stuff I hear people smoking or talking about smoking on. Hypothetically, getting to try it like we live in Canada, where they can send it to each other in the mail legally. I think that's going to happen sometime soon, at least between medically legal states. They got to get that shit together. Even if they don't federally legalize, I'm all for decriminalize. People say don't get political on the show, but
commerce is federal. Anything that crosses state lines is federally regulated. So until it's federally legal, once it's federally legal, it probably would be to go between legal states, but states would still be able to individually make it illegal.
I heard Oregon was proposing to do state to state at one point, but I'm not sure if they ever got successfully through with that because they had such an abundance.
I guarantee you Oklahoma will be the first to do that because
already has legislation written into the code that would allow for it.
So here's the thing. Should go. I'm already getting ready for federal legislation. I'm already getting ready for the legislation here because the thing is Oklahoma is centralized to the United States and there's a huge shipping industry out here in Oklahoma, and that gives a huge advantage for the people that operate here because you can build a brand here, and then when that happens, then you can start building a brand nationally. With the way things are moving, you're going to be able to ship through the internet. You're going to be able to have craft products go all over the United States in the future. I mean, all of these things are going to be happening with probably in the next 5 years. So if you don't make a 5-year plan and that's not part of it, and you want to build like a brand or a company, I mean, I see that happening.
What, Brandon, are you telling me that I can't just complain that things aren't the way that they were before because things constantly change? I don't know, man.
If you can't adapt,
yeah, I mean,
I
If
think
you can't
that's
adapt,
that
just
can be said
complain and
about
give up.
Or just become a
I think
parasite.
that's
Yep.
and there's people like that in the cannabis community. I mean,
I once had a cheeky idea
basically-
to produce like a marketing book that's called How to Market Like a Parasite. Maybe that already exists. I actually don't know. And if somebody does do that, it was my idea first, and I'm going to sue you. Just kidding. I don't do that.
that's
kind of
my
stuff,
IP.
but-
Virtual
That's my IP
copyright.
because I said it first, right? So honorably, and only honorable people would appreciate this. They must just accept that. Even though somebody might have had the same idea, that is a mentality in the cannabis industry, isn't that the case?
So
Yeah, I
Brandon,
really
basically
want
what
to
you're
start an
saying
organic
is you're getting ready
Uh,
to, you're gearing up to provide the nation with your product. Is your like that's basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, if you don't set goals and you don't write things out and make a plan, and it's part of, it's part of it, and you have to be able to figure out how to make these things happen. So there's steps for all of the things that you write down, and you got to go through all those steps to make it work. I can't obviously do it myself, but it's the reason why I have partners. I have a great girl that does all kinds of stuff. Her family is involved in cannabis, and with
But
everything
but
that
that's the base of what getting ready for federal legalization and it all opening up is, right? Being able to make more.
I mean, that's always going to be the case, probably.
it's
to some degree.
about being able to create a recognizable brand in the community that you operate, and then be able to take those, your SOPs and the way that you cultivate and replicate that when Texas opens up, for instance, and be able to go take over another piece of a market share and introduce the world to a really high quality product that can also be done, at scale. One of the really cool things about what we're doing is there's so many people operating, and I have the capacity to work with really great people. There's some of the best processors in the state of Oklahoma processing a majority of our material. And that makes it so, one, we get brand recognition with all of their clientele, right? So when if we do a split with these people and they have our farm's name on the product, because that's how these people work. They give credit to the growers, they give credit to the farms they get their material from as processors. So doing that and having a high quality, product like that, and then only putting onto the market the best parts of that plant, you can have everything else processed. You can have your lowers processed, fresh, frozen, rosin, and that's kind of the plan, because with that we can decrease our workload on the trimming and the processing part. We can have faster turnarounds when everything's dry, because we've only basically processed the best parts of the plant. It'll be easier for our trimmers to trim. So there's just a lot of factors and a lot of different ways, and we all as a company and as partners, we talk, because we're all owner operators. So we're there every day together. So we can have the conversations. What are we going to do? Okay, this is what we need to do. Right. This is what we need. This is what we need. This is what, so we have the conversations, and keeping open line of communication is to build upon your goals. You have to have that kind of foundation.
I got to cut in for just a second and say sorry to everybody who guessed the 345. It was also 3 away. I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking closest without going over. But and there was a bunch of people that guessed 345 and only one who guessed the 339. So I think that the Mountain Skies deserved that book, and they can get the copy. Sorry to everybody who didn't win, but there will be a ebook and audiobook coming soon. I had a blind individual reach out to me asking about an audiobook, and I really want to make that available to them. I'll be using this microphone, so if this audio quality is acceptable to you and you want to hear me actually read out the audiobook, I'll include the ebook with all the audiobooks. But if you just want to do the ebook, I'm going to do it for like $420 and $710 digitally. I think I'm still trying to figure out how to figure out the costs and where to make it available. But Google and Amazon, potentially Apple bookstore. But we got cheering in the background. Cleveland Browns are doing well right now. I know not a lot of people are here, football or sports people in general, but there's a big rivalry my whole lifetime. I'm from Cleveland, and the Steelers versus the Browns is a big thing. And the Browns just beat the Steelers last week to get into the playoffs, which they've only been twice in my lifetime, only 2 winning records in my lifetime. And they're playing the Steelers right now, and they're doing well. So hopefully they continue to go that way.
21-0.
Yeah, 21-0. So cheers to that. But Spartan Grown, you got about a few minutes left. I know you probably got to hit the bathroom, maybe take care of the dogs and stretch your legs a little bit before you head over to the Michigan Bros Grow Show. You want to give your final thoughts and shout outs?
I think we covered pretty much everything. I think I mentioned it before the show, but and somebody did ask in chat, so I'll say it real quick that I did finish my worm bin design that I made, and I filled that with bedding, which was just leaves, cannabis leaves, and then oak leaves. And then I started the process of seeding that with worms from my other worm bin. My other worm bin is easily 2 years old, so there's a lot of castings to go through. And so I went through and I got about half a bucket's worth of castings, which I used to top. And God, I just love when I top dressed those. Like today when I went to water, every fucking plant was just like super happy. And you know what it is, and it just makes me, it's worth the work. You know what I mean? It's worth the work of sifting the worm castings. But anyways,
I'm glad
that's
that you
gonna be
got
a
a
slow
new design.
process. Yeah, I've shot a little tiny video of it. I'm gonna try to string them all together. Maybe I'll figure something out and share it somehow, somewhere.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us always, Spartan. You can find him at Spartan Grown on Instagram. He also grows at Mitten Canico. He's about to be on the Michigan Bros Grow Show, and you can also find him on GML and a few other shows. But we really appreciate him spending the time with us. Even though we were late, he was here right on time, talking it up with us in the pre-show. And big cheers and thank you to Spartan Grown.
Yep. Thanks, Jack, and thanks everybody on the panel. Growers love, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Peace out.
See you guys.
All right. I'm a big fan of the worm bins myself. I haven't been able to set one up. My wife is not a huge fan, and our place is really small and outdoor. There's cats, skunks, and I think sometimes even raccoons. I don't know about that. Brandon, do you know of raccoons in San Diego? Is that a thing?
Absolutely.
Matthew?
Yeah, definitely.
I thought so. Question though, Brandon, a little bit of a history because I didn't know this one actually, and I love to advance my cannabis history knowledge. Tommy Trichomes was talking about he lived in the Oceanside area of San Diego, and there was a strain, he said, in mid-2000s, he believed was similar to a Gorilla Glue, but he thought even better, and they called it the Goop, Goop. Do you have any information, thoughts, knowledge?
No, we used to have a lot of stuff called AFGU.
That's what I was gonna say.
That was my first thought too, was AFGoop, like AFGUI, Goop,
We
gooey.
sold a lot of that all over the place, but that was mainly being commercially produced up in Northern California.
Yeah, so I'm still, I think sometimes there was places locally where they would have, a local grower that would supply them, and maybe it was just a pheno they had of a certain cut or something special. And
Yeah.
I've got stuff like that still to this day that I like think back. I'm like, damn, that was a really good cut from this one place, but I only ever got it there and never got to meet who grew it. And there's always some sort of like great white buffalo, the one that got away, so it's interesting if you can chase those things down. And now that I said it, maybe somebody in the chat here will hear it and be like, oh, I know what the Goop is. It's fucking this cross to that, and my buddy fucking made it in his garage in 84. You always get
Probably get about 10 people saying that.
Yeah. But hey, I have to get going too because I have a consult that I have to get.
No worries. Where can we find you? And any final thoughts and shout outs?
Yeah, potent.fun on IG. Go check out their awesome, amazing grinder product. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's also a really great product. It's well made. If you want to find what I do, you can find me on Instagram at Rust Brandon, RustBrandon. I'm shadow banned. You have to type it all out. And you can find a link in there to Bokashi Earthworks if you're interested in like microbe fertilizers. Highly recommend the Microbe Plus if you're growing organically. It is just an amazing product. And that's kind of about it. You know, I always enjoy coming on the show, and I will see you guys all next week.
Cheers, Brandon. Thank you so much for coming.
Take it easy, man.
Peace out,
Grow up,
Brandon.
Brandon.
I don't get paid
Yes.
anything for this, but I love that Micro Plus, man. I'm like obsessed with how it smells and how it works in my garden. So cheers to that and all the other products you can find at Bokashi Earthworks. Brandon really does a good job making affordable products, so I don't feel bad at all plugging them because everybody I know who uses them really enjoys them. So I enjoy them, and they're not gonna, break your pocketbook trying to use them in your gardens for the most part. So cheers to that. This is the cheap home grow, and it doesn't have to be super complicated or expensive. And sometimes you can just keep it simple. And everybody I've seen follow his soil recipe actually seems to be having really good results. Same with like the Coots mix. A lot of people like Smiley's Garden does modified Coots mix. I used to do Coots mix back in the day. I loved it. It worked really well for me. Worm castings is a big part of that. Tao, do you have any thoughts on worm castings and worm bins? Because I know you've been recently doing more of that.
Yeah, I'm a 100% believer in the earthworm castings, and even more if you dictate what's going into them, you could pretty much know some of what's coming out of them better. So the last run, or now I've been making my mix with at least 33% earthworm castings, and I'm hoping to add a little bit more. But they're just plants love it. It's just like magic. So yeah, I'm a believer.
I'm a big fan. Definitely use them myself. I actually just ran out, and I'm considering ordering more from the same place because I really had great results with it the last time. I think Coot he shouted them out in one of the 5-hour-long marathons he did with Aaron the Grower. It was called like Sonoma Valley Worm Castings or something, and they have like these really nice flow through, I think they're controlled climate. They just make tons of castings and worms and really high quality stuff, even though it's bagged. Like I said, I've been trying to get back to my local place, but COVID still has that shut down, unfortunately. But with that being said, I'll do the final shout outs. Matthew Gates, do you have any final thoughts before we get going on maybe worm castings, vermicompost in general, and then where we can find you and all that good stuff?
Well, only enough to say in this brief time that I'm a big advocate. I like earthworms when they're contained and they're used for good with compost or vermicomposting, vermicomposting. Anyways, integrated pest management.
Vermiposting is what you do when you post about the vermicompost.
Yeah. or it's when you make your post look like a worm. I haven't decided.
Yep. Either way.
But yeah, you can find my information. You can find my article on Skunk Magazine about the cannabis microbiome and research therein. You can also find a video I just made about leaf miners in cannabis on my YouTube channel, Zenthanol, the same account I was using, and also on Instagram and Twitter at SyncAngel. Thanks a lot.
Cheers to you, Matthew. I would say you're my favorite IPM YouTube by a long shot, and I've been, knock on wood, having very good success with my IPM and, just general scouting of the garden and knowing what to implement and when to implement it. So thank you to you for all the knowledge that you've shared on your channel for the past several years. You do an excellent job sharing both your own insight and scientific resources that help the community and myself very, very much. So I can't understate how much we appreciate your time here. And thank you again for coming this week. Next up, we have Dr. MJ.
I got here just in time to do like the last shout outs, I think. Yeah, sorry I missed you guys this week. I've been just busy. We got the New Year's Grow Challenge going on. We got a big giveaway here in half an hour. If everybody's listening, I know several of you that are listening are into the New Year's Grow Challenge and registered for the New Gear giveaway. We're doing like $1,000 worth of prizes here in about half an hour. And I got a big video this week. I tested the Chilled Growcraft Ultra Prototype 1, their new sort of record-setting light that they're going for. That video was supposed to be out today, but it's going to be tomorrow or possibly Tuesday, depending on sort of how much this last little work takes for me. And I'll be back here next week. I'll try to be here for the whole show next week, guys. Sorry,
That was my fault. He was here.
What's that?
I said that was my fault. You were here at the beginning.
was here, yeah,
and we
yeah.
let you go because we didn't know if it was even going to go live at all. I said we'll just record it and post it because I don't know if it was going to happen. So, cheers to you for showing up on time. I don't want people to think
I'm just trying to hit
you.
deadlines. So I appreciate you guys. I like hanging out every week. I'll be back next week. Thanks for carrying the show panel. I'm sure you guys did a great job in my absence. Thanks to everybody in the chat for showing up every week. I have a lot of grower love for all of you. So I'll see you next week or before that if you come over to cocoforcannabis.com.
Definitely check it out. There's a lot of great things going on there, the giveaways and just the community. I like the live chat and the forum aspect. I think that everybody I've seen engaging over there seems to really enjoy it and get a lot out of that community. So cheers to you, Dr. MJ. And next up we got Noah the Grower.
Yeah, I had a great time as always. Thanks for everybody for showing up in the chat. Thanks for everyone in the panel showing up. Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Noah the Grower, NOAHTHEEGROWA, and you're more than welcome to stop by, check out anything I got going on. I got some real exciting stuff coming up here in the future that I'm kind of just working on, and anybody has any questions about anything I'm doing or any questions that in growing, I always try to answer all my direct messages. Anybody has any questions, I try and help people out. Yeah, Jack, I definitely want to get one of your books. I'll have you sign it for me, and I'll Cash App or however you're doing the money thing. I'll definitely support anybody on the panel here, and everybody here is an excellent grower, and everyone in the chat. It's nice to have a forum like this. I wish I'd had something like this 11 years ago when I was starting. So thanks everyone in the panel for showing up and putting this out there for the universe. And everyone have a great day and happy growing to all.
Happy growing to you, Noah. Much love for showing up. I always appreciate your input every week and that you show up and you're here, whether you get a chance to talk or not. You're always there with us, and I always appreciate when you do join in, and always appreciate the photos that I see when we're not on the show. I like following you on Instagram, which I recommend everybody who's not already, check him out at Noah the with 2 E's Grower on Instagram. We've got Aaron the Grower, ATG Acres. Check him out. What's up, Aaron? Give your final thoughts and shout outs.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. And thank you, panel and chat. I had a lot of fun tonight. I missed last week, and I was I was just basically like chewing my fingernails until this Sunday came, because I really like you guys. You're my favorite group of friends. Don't tell my other friends. And so if you want to find out more about me, go to atgacres.com. I have a bunch of info about my company, about my family, about our business. You know, we're a craft farm. We don't take investments. We don't get loans. We do it all out of our own pocket, and it all goes back into the business. So check out atgacres.com for that, and to get yourself a plant packer or any of the merch that we produce to support the farm. And that said, thank you for everybody that supports us and that pulled up to the New Year's event, and that continues to do things like subscribe to my YouTube channel that I just created. And I I do like to answer my DMs as well. As long as it's not some stupid, crazy request to ship you weed, I'm going to respond. And we're going to have a conversation about cannabis. And likely I'll be more long-winded than you wanted me to, just as I am on the show. So I appreciate everybody and love you guys. Check out my YouTube channel. Check out ATG Acres on Instagram. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Whenever people ask me to ship them weed, I always say, I'll teach you how to grow it. And then they're like, no, I just want some. I'm like, anybody who's going to send you some on here, it's going to be moldy. It's going to be sprayed with pesticides. It's going to have heavy metal failures. It's going to be nasty. Like it's not going to be something that anybody wants. And you're going to get either nothing and have your money stolen from you, or you're going to get some really nasty stuff, more than likely. So here, learn how to grow your own. It's a lot easier than you think. And I'll teach you. Ask me any questions. I'll help you get set up. And then they're always like, I'll go on to the next guy. But some of them, I've actually convinced a few. I think a lot of them are just the 5-0 police undercover. So don't respond to those DMs, people. Don't get yourself fucking wrapped up. Don't fucking sell anything to people you don't know.
By the way, new plant packer sticker. I think I said this a couple weeks ago.
Best way to send a clone.
There we go. So yeah, if you're thinking about getting into growing, and you want to get some verified genetics, there are a couple of national providers, and you can get yourself one of these to ship your buddies some copies. So
Great stuff. I can't even believe it. Eagle Gardens, who never promotes his own show, is telling everybody to hit that thumbs up, hit the like button. Cheers to you, Eagle. Good stuff, brother. I know you're very shameless or selfless, I should say, on your own show, and would never ask your own people to do it. But here, you're reminding the good people to help us with the algorithm. We had 160 plus sometime tonight. We went from like 155 down to 148, and then I did a book giveaway, and the number shot right back up. And people were here active and engaging in the chat, which I always appreciate. One person who's here with us that hasn't gotten a chance to do their final shout out, which I'm going to do an announcement. I'm going to grow his gear side by side with Donnie Berger from Skunk House Genetics. I'm going to grow, I believe it's Amy Aces from the American One. So cheers, the American One. Final thoughts and shout out.
Oh, that's pretty cool, Jack. That would be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it was great talking with everyone tonight, and I wish I was in chat more, but I got to keep going back and forth. But yeah, chat is awesome, and everyone here is awesome. I'm the American One on YouTube, and the American One underscore with a Keens, with underscore a Keens on the IG. And yeah, that's about it. Everyone have a great week, and we'll catch you next week.
Cheers to you, the American One. I'm looking forward to growing your gear. Everybody who has grown it has found some really fire stuff, so I'm excited to grow it myself. I'm going to do that in one run, and then the next run will be my pine run, which is going to be the 79 Christmas Bud and the Pine Tar Kush from CSI Humboldt, some of it through Tom Hill, and NDN guy, I think, Preservation Projects. But I'm looking for a little bit of pine, pure pine, so that'll be a fun one to do. And right now I'm finishing up some Velvet Punch F3s. I have F2 Velvet Punch that I made from my buddy Doja DNA's gear. It was like grapey and gassy and turned purple and really frosty. I think probably the best looking flower I've ever grown, and people didn't even know it was pollinated. It was a seeded bud, and it was like, oh my God, that looks fire. So definitely happy I made F2s, and the F2s, Spartan is growing some of them. My buddy Eagle's growing them, and a few other people at Tao is growing them actually. So I'm growing them myself, making F3s, and right now I've got two beautiful ladies and one really handsome male Velvet Punch that gonna make F3s with, and then also cross with Subcool Sangria, which I think I got the green apple pheno that Eagle has mentioned. It's kind of a rare one in Sangria, but I'm excited to see what the offspring has from that, and even the seeded flower and the dry sift that comes from it. So cheers to that. Cheers to growing your own. Cheers to everybody for showing up. I know we're going to cut it off, which will be a little bit early. Technically, we only did about an hour and a half this evening, but we did a half an hour pre-show that I'm not going to air to give the privacy and credit to everybody, because it was kind of not cannabis topic. So we went a little bit, different direction, which I enjoyed it.
Track, yeah.
But it's not the cheap home grow. It's not what we do. So I'm going to keep that for the private side of things. But yeah, thank you again, everybody, for coming. You can find me at Jack Greenstock right here. I'm the author, officially, I could say it now because it's like really a thing, of 50 Strains of Green. So excited to do that. I'm excited just to get to hang out with cool people on Instagram, Twitter, Jack_Greenstock, also on Cannabis. Much love to everybody here. Grower love to everyone. I really feel like, I never would have thought when I was a kid you could actually make like friends on the internet, but at this point, I'd call you all friends on this panel, that's for sure. I can't wait to travel, meet up with you, smoke down whenever it's safe to do that again. So cheers to all you. Thank you again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and say Jack Greenstock signing out, and hopefully I can